Coming up today, lashing out against South Korea's latest sanctions, North Korea declares all inter-Korean economic agreements null and void. Pyongyang says South Korean assets in the north will be liquidated. The European Central Bank slashes rates and expands its stimulus program in a bid to boost inflation and breathe life into the sluggish Eurozone economy. First 2-0 to the computer as Google's DeepMind AI beats Lee Se-dol, the best Go player in the world, for a second straight day. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world at 6 a.m. on Friday, March 11th here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, North Korea says it will liquidate all South Korean assets in the north in response to the latest sanctions from Seoul, Washington and the United Nations. That complicates things for the South, which is sitting on a regional request from a humanitarian foundation, that wants to make an aid shipment to the impoverished North Korean people. Connie Kim starts us off.
North Korea has announced it'll scrap all inter-Korean economic cooperation and exchange projects in retaliation against South Korea's new independent sanctions on the regime. The statement from the North's Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of the Fatherland on Thursday said the regime will liquidate all South Korean assets in the north as Seoul shut down the Mount Kumgang Tor project and the Kaesong industrial complex. It also said its military has switched to a preemptive attack mode and is waiting for the final command with the presidential office of Chawade as a primary target. The statement comes on the heels of South Korea's announcement on Tuesday of stiff new sanctions on Pyongyang, which followed the UN Security Council's latest resolution against the North. The South Korean sanctions blacklist includes more than 30 individuals and 20 entities that were not on the UN list and strengthens the maritime sanctions on the regime. South Korea has condemned North Korea's statement, adding that liquidating South Korean assets is an unacceptable provocative act.
North Korea must not destroy South Koreans' property. If it does, it will have to be responsible for all the consequences.
South Korean assets in the north are estimated to mount up to some $1.2 billion. But even as North Korea continues with its belligerent rhetoric, South Korea also says it's reviewing whether to approve a U.S.-based humanitarian foundation's request to ship medicine to tuberculosis patients in the north. Seoul's sanctions included stronger controls on imports and exports to and from North Korea, but aid to infants and pregnant women was an exception. If Seoul says no, it could further endanger the more than 1,500 North Koreans who have reportedly contracted tuberculosis. If South Korea gives the foundation the green light, it'll be Seoul's first decision on humanitarian aid since North Korea's nuclear test in early January. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea's representative to the stalled six-party talks says Seoul and Washington both agree that denuclearization should be the top priority when it comes to dialogue with North Korea. Kim Hong-gyun was speaking to reporters upon his arrival in Washington, responding to China's proposal of two-track dialogue on denuclearization and the replacement of the Korean War Armistice Agreement with an actual peace treaty. Kim noted that Seoul and Washington share the view that now is the time for sanctions, not dialogue, considering North Korea's recent nuclear and missile provocations. The South Korean envoy is slated to meet with his US counterpart Sung Kim on Friday for follow-up discussions on South Korea-US cooperation on pressuring North Korea to change its ways. A top US military official says Washington is preparing against the threat posed by North Korea by assuming it has the capability to miniaturize a nuclear warhead. Speaking at a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing on Thursday, US Northern Command Commander William Gortney said North Korea can range the continental United States with an intercontinental ballistic missile and added it would be prudent to assume Pyongyang can put a warhead on an ICBM. He also said Hawaii and Alaska would be well within Pyongyang's range. However, Geunhye stressed the U.S. has the ability to defend itself against North Korea, making it clear the U.S. has the ability to engage that threat. He said the intelligence community gives North Korea a very low probability of any kind of success. Now, President Park Geunhye has been promoting her job creation and economic revitalization initiatives in her hometown of Daegu. During her trip Thursday, the president highlighted multiple sectors from textiles to sports, which she said would have great potential for growth. Our presidential office correspondent Song Ji-sun with a report.
The city of Daegu in Gyeongsang-buk-do province is a traditional conservative stronghold. President Park Geunhye was born in its city and entered the parliament through a by-election for one of its districts. The historic textile factory town is also home to Korea's largest conglomerate, Samsung, which was founded in 1938. On Thursday, just 6 months since her last visit, President Park was back in her hometown to promote her vision for job creation through new growth engines. She kicked off the day with a visit to the Daegu Innovation Center, which was the first of the nation's 17 newly built creative economy hubs to be launched.
창조경제혁신센터와 규제 프리존을 통해 경북 각 번역의 전략산업에 걸맞는 자유로운 산업 환경을 창출하고 교통망 구축을 비롯해서 경북 발전을 촉진할 여건 조성에 최선을 다하겠습니다.
Next, she dropped by the International Textile Fair, where she said traditional textile manufacturers have the potential to become models of the creative economy through modernization in collaboration with the ICT sector. The president also attended a forum aimed at promoting the sports sector, held in the city that hosted the 2011 World Athletics Championships and the Summer Universiade in 2003. At the event, the first of its kind, President Park vowed to relax regulations on the sector, which has a market size that's twice as big as the tourism industry. She also pledged to turn sports into a culture and an industry for all, not just elite athletes, which is the case in Korea. The president wrapped up her visit by attending the opening ceremony for Gyeongsang-buk-do's new provincial office building, where she called for balanced regional growth and new growth engines for the future. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Now, lawmakers were still at loggerheads over a series of contentious bills on Thursday, the last day of the parliamentary session. The start of the next session on this Friday may provide a new opportunity for compromise, but with preparations for an upcoming general election already underway, the standstill could prove extra costly. Ji Myung-gil with the details.
The ruling Saenuri Party on Thursday said it is determined to see several key bills passed during the next parliamentary session that starts on Friday, and at least before a general election in April.
There are roughly 30 days until the election, but we must not give up our goal of passing these livelihood bills. For the sake of the people, the opposition party should cooperate in passing these key bills during the March extraordinary session.
The ruling party wants to see the passage of 4 labor reform bills, a service sector promotion bill, and a cyber-terrorism bill before the 19th National Assembly ends in May. It says the labor reform and service sector bills will boost job creation and revitalize the economy, while the cyber-terrorism bill will help prevent cyber attacks from abroad. But the main opposition Minju Party of Korea, under pressure from both the ruling party and the presidential office to rubber stamp the bills, called on both to stop.
It's just redundant for the Saenuri Party to keep pressuring us to pass the bills that President Park Geunhye wants passed. She creates a mood of crisis, the National Intelligence Service sides with her, and then she urges the Assembly to pass the bills.
With the general election just around the corner, there is some concern about when and if the two parties can negotiate a compromise. Already the focus has turned to the election, with each party naming more candidates for the April 13th contest. The ruling Saenuri Party's list includes candidates who will run in 31 districts, including 6 districts in Seoul. The Minju Party of Korea issued a list of candidates who will run in 44 districts, including the names of 5 incumbent lawmakers who will not be allowed to run, as the party seeks fresh faces to make itself more competitive. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Now, the top UN human rights official says the so-called comfort women should be the ones themselves to decide if Japan has properly compensated them. Giving his annual speech at the UN Human Rights Council on Thursday, High Commissioner Zaid Riyad Al Hussein said that despite South Korea and Japan reaching a deal in December, the surviving Korean victims of Japan's sexual slavery still demand proper compensation. He said the authorities should be able to reach out and listen to the voices of these brave women, since they are to judge if they are being compensated appropriately. Now, DeepMind's AI system AlphaGo proved to the world that its first victory over the world's best Go player this week wasn't a fluke, beating grandmaster Lee Se-dol for a second time on Thursday. The game was even more intense than the first, with the session lasting an hour longer. EG1 reports.
Another win for AlphaGo. The second game of Paduk, also known as Go, between Grandmaster Lee Se-dol of Korea and artificial intelligence supercomputer AlphaGo ended after 211 moves. The game seemed to be in Lee's favor as he had higher points than AlphaGo throughout the game. Commentators too thought he almost got this round under his belt. But they were wrong. AlphaGo was in control of the game from the very start. The machine continuously made very original moves that professional Paduk players would not normally make. The computer's creative moves were especially evident early in the game, as its 13th move was completely unprecedented, making Lee leave his seat for about 5 long minutes. Lee countered these moves well, taking more time to make the best decision. Unlike Wednesday's game, he was not quick to attack where AlphaGo had made mistakes. But with AlphaGo silently but surely following Lee's every move, the machine eventually ended up victorious.
Today's game was a complete defeat. I found a number of weak points during yesterday's game, but today I could not find any weakness from AlphaGo.
If Lee loses again, AlphaGo will be declared the winner. But does Lee have any tricks up his sleeve to keep that from happening? We'll find out more on Saturday's match. 이지원, Arirang News.
Now, the European Central Bank has cut interest rates, dropping its key lending rate to 0 from 0.05% as part of a package of measures intended to boost the flagging Eurozone economy. The ECB also slashed its deposit and lending facility rates to minus 0.4% and 0.25% respectively. The central bank added it would expand its bond buying stimulus program by raising monthly purchases to 80 billion euros from the current 60, and by purchasing corporate bonds. The package of measures is deemed more radical than investors had expected and follows a stimulus measure announced at the end of last year. Tens of thousands of documents, including 22,000 names, addresses, phone numbers and family contacts of Islamic State fighters, have been obtained by a British broadcaster. Sky News reports that nationals from more than 50 countries, including Britain, had to give up their most personal information as they joined the terror organisation. Now, some of the names are well known to intelligence agencies, but the documents reveal the identities of a number of previously unknown jihadis from Western and Middle Eastern countries. The papers also show many of the men passed through a series of so-called jihadi hotspots, such as Yemen, Sudan, Tunisia, Libya, Pakistan and Afghanistan on multiple occasions, but were apparently unchecked, unmonitored and able to both enter Syria to fight and then to return home. The files were given to Sky News by a former senior member of ISIS. Now, the wait is practically over. Samsung's latest Galaxy range of smartphones will hit the shelves in Korea this morning. Samsung says it focused on adding as many features as possible this time around, and is confident the Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge will break the company's past sales records. Kim Min-ji with the details.
Will Samsung's latest smartphones be able to turn tables in the much saturated smartphone market? After being unveiled to the public last month, the Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge were launched in some 50 countries worldwide on Friday, including its home turf. You can pick up a 32GB Galaxy S7 for $690 in Korea and the S7 Edge for $770, both slightly cheaper than their predecessors. Samsung says they focused on addressing consumers' wants and needs.
Our aim in making the S7 and S7 Edge was to make them much more valuable and comprehensive than other conventional smartphones. We tried to incorporate in the latest models the innovations that consumers wanted in a phone.
So what can we look out for in the latest models? The glass and metal encased smartphones come with batteries that last a lot longer, water and dust resistance, not to mention some of the popular features from the previous S6 model. Samsung has also adopted a dual pixel sensor for the cameras for the first time in smartphone history, which will enhance photo quality to levels of high-end cameras, and has brought back the micro SD card slot for increased memory capacity. With that, the tech giant says it's confident that the sales of the Galaxy S7 will surpass that of the previous S6, which sold about 38 million units last year. But with Samsung's local rival LG Electronics soon to launch its new G5, the industry's first modular-type smartphone, which can connect with various accessories to improve sound and enhance camera functions, the world's biggest smartphone maker is in for a tough challenge.
The design's not very different from its previous model, and rather than focus on innovation, it's more like being faithful to the basics. Rather, it's the new LG smartphone that's under the spotlight. The modular smartphone is likely to create a market sensation.
While analysts say the release of the latest models may bring a slight uptick in profits in Samsung's mobile division, they don't have major game-changing aspects that will win over consumers. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Well, those are stories we have for you this hour. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.